Tuned to CKCU 93.1 FM. We're just talking there about community media convergence, and that is a conference coming up here at Carleton, November 22nd to the 24th. Before that, CKCU's 40th anniversary party takes place this Saturday, and we've got media from across the country coming to take part because they're often alumni of CKCU along with the School of Journalism or other degrees here at Carleton. And then, of course, people who've gone on to do different things but got at least part of their start here at CKCU 93.1 at Carleton University, 5th floor of the Unicenter. One of the people who got himself started here and went on to do all kinds of work with, among other places, Shea 106 is Jim Hurcomb. We got Jim on the phone. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, Matthew, how are you?
I'm very good. If I remember correctly, you were very familiar at one point with early morning hours on the radio.
Oh, I still am, actually. I'm working in the government. My hours start at 5:30.
Excellent.
I can't escape, and I hate getting up early. It's sort of been part of my whole career, doing a lot of morning radio, etc. So
sure.
There's something to be said for getting off early, too.
Hey, by 8 o'clock, you were probably in full swing at that point and almost ready to shut it down.
Or pretending to be in full swing, yeah. That's the thing. You get into, if you're doing a morning radio show and you're on at 5:30 or something, you've got to sound like you're, it's mid-afternoon or something. It's not always easy, but it's part of the job.
Now, when you were back at CKCU, I don't think you started here on morning radio.
No, my first shift was in the closed circuit because we hadn't gone FM yet. So we're talking like 1973 or so. And then when FM came, some of the memories are foggy, but I remember doing Special Blend for a while and also doing late nights for a while. When you work at CKCU, you've got to be prepared for what comes to you, and it's those opportunities you've got to grab when they come and do whatever you can, and do as much as you possibly can on air.
Now, by FM, you don't mean the invention of FM, but you mean when CKCU itself went onto the FM in 1975.
Yeah. I think I arrived in 73, if memory serves, probably the summer of 73, and then toiled away quite happily in closed circuit. Back then, I don't think people really had an inkling about the FM. The management obviously did because there was quite an intricate plan put together to present to the CRTC. But a lot of us are kind of oblivious to it. We were doing our own thing, and when the station was only heard in the tunnels on the best of times. But then when we got closer to the actual presentation, then the excitement started to build. And then, of course, in 75, we were put in that envious and kind of scary position of being kids thrown on the air in a major radio market for people who hadn't got this kind of, FM album-oriented radio as far as the music goes. It was quite an amazing time.
Let's just go back there for a moment. We were talking about the station playing in the tunnels. There's definitely listeners who would understand what that's about, but you weren't turning on the radio dial and listening to CKCU in 1973.
No, you weren't. You were just basically, it was force-fed into the tunnel, so you couldn't escape it. Although it wasn't, blared through every inch of it. Most of the lounge areas along the tunnel system were fed the radio station, and I believe there was one line that went out to the station manager's house. He lived down on Sunnyside Avenue, I believe, close to the university, so he could hear what was going on. But outside of that, no. If you were into progressive music at the time, you'd have to hook your cable up to get Hurcomb FM in Montreal. But after November of 1975, that all changed, and we were a full-fledged FM radio station.
So when they first signed on, how was it selected as to who was the first one to go on?
It was a lottery system, I believe, and Steve Caldwell, who was one of the guys who went to Shea after, he's still there as a matter of fact, he won, and the first song played was Joni Mitchell, You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio. And every time I hear that song still, and I'm sure it's true with all the other CKCU alumni, you get that special kind of tingle that, oh yeah, that was the beginning of the whole thing back in 75.
And then Mr. Caldwell, whether he's good at fixing lotteries or whatnot, he managed to sign on Shea as well.
That's right. And the first record skipped. Someone in the Exuberance, I believe, kicked the turntable or something.
So take us back to when you
did like 1 hour shifts or something for the first couple of days.
That's excellent. Take us back to when you were first on. What was the kind of music you were playing then, Jim?
Well, same stuff I'm playing now. My tastes have not evolved. They've broadened perhaps a bit, but I grew up listening to to the radio, like CFRA and CKOY here, while I was pretending to do my homework. And when I finally badgered my way onto the air in '73, I remember quite well the first show I did. I can't remember the first song I played, but I couldn't sit down. I never use a chair, and I still don't, because I like to do the air guitar and just get into the music. So it was basically hard rock and progressive rock as well. There were a couple of us at the time. There was a guy named Peter Reynolds, and I sort of had the same musical taste. Back then, it was as eclectic as it is now. There was jazz, there was blues, there was folk, there was country rock. But Peter and I had the same kind of taste. And I remember one day he came up to me and said, "Hey, Jim," he spoke in this deep kind of rocky voice, "the new Zappa album's out, and the new Queen album is out today too. Tell you what, I'll let you play the Queen, you let me play the Zappa." I said, "Okay, whatever." So we kind of switched off on the hard rock stuff on the Friday and Saturday nights. It was great fun.
And this has led to a lifetime for you on radio.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell that came from. I had no aspirations to that at all. Like listening to the guys I listened to back in high school, these were not regular people. These were like some kind of super beings with these magical powers that got them on the radio. But then as you sort of work into the business, you realize that they were just, kids who got lucky and, started part-time, and then someone got sick one day and they got on the air and blah, 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 blah. So it's just a case of, getting in there, finding something you like to do on the radio station and doing it as best you can and doing everything you can. And then, the chips will fall where they may. But I never thought that I'd embark on a career in radio, which has spanned like 40-some years. It's kind of crazy.
I'm pretty sure that's a career.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Unless you're going to be living to like 500.
I got to the point when I was let go at Shea 2000 that I got into the government, and since then I've been still lucky enough to do radio on the side. It's more a hobby than anything, but it still is and always has been great fun. The creative process. It takes a week to put together a 1-hour show, and that's most of the fun of it too.
Now, you were talking about listening to CFRA. If you've listened to them more recently, you wouldn't have heard music there. But no. There was a time when there was lots of music on CFRA. What was the airwaves like on the other stations when CKCU signed on in '75? How many stations do you think there were, and what was sort of what they were doing?
Well, it was almost stuck in the past because we're talking 1975, and so-called album-oriented rock had been, or progressive rock on the radio had been, a mainstay of many American stations since 1967 when it started in San Francisco, the so-called freeform radio. And then we had stations in Canada like Hurcomb in Montreal, Chum in Toronto, etc. But what you got here in Ottawa were these pockets of specialty shows. Even CFRA one had a show called The Final Hour. I think it ran at 10 o'clock at night, and they play the really cool stuff like The Doors and all this neat stuff, and Hendrix, things they wouldn't play during their regular daytime. And CKBY, the country station, had a show called The Source with Brian Murphy. And same deal, like the country music would stop and Murphy would come on and play Dylan and all this Grateful Dead stuff. And there was another station, CKBY, I can't remember the call letters. They had the same kind of deal, like a late-night show hosted by the hippies. But there was no radio station dedicated to that style of music until, CKCU came on the air with the combination of music and the public affairs. And then 2 years later in '77, Shea came on the air as well, doing the same kind of mixture.
Oh, that's very good. All kinds of people come in to attend the anniversary on Saturday night, and we're looking forward to seeing people out. I've got Peter Leo will be up with us momentarily, and then we're going to have some more alumni on tomorrow and each day until we get right through to the Saturday. A lot of amazing people came through here. What do you think was sort of something? Was it just the right place at the right time, or what do you think was going on to have so many people come through that have gone on to careers in the media?
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as the music end goes, and that was the end I was primarily involved with, you had a lot of people come in who really knew their music and were the music freaks, and there've been no outlet for them to do this publicly. And so, guys like Rob Stewart doing the British Invasion show, and Alwyn Ross, and of course our fantastic jazz and blues guys. These people all knew their music, as is true today. And Ottawa was there was nothing like it in town because, we didn't have that style of radio. It was all very commercial and, play by the numbers, everything's pre-programmed, etc. And right off the bat, I mean, that's why CKCU found such a great and friendly home here because, everyone was a music freak back then. You'd listen to Stevie Wonder, you'd listen to Black Sabbath, you'd listen to Hendrix, you'd listen to Simon and Garfunkel. And that's the kind of mix you got here on the radio station and more. You'd discover so much music. The ears were wide open back then. And, of course, we didn't have the Internet. We didn't have downloading and streaming. So to hear this stuff was just an incredible treat for everybody. And that's why people were so passionate about their shows because they knew they mattered. And the people listening, were getting this nowhere else. And, that's the gift of CKCU. You provide, little something for everybody, and then, feel free to experiment and get a lot of new ideas about music and really the community and the world as well.
Well, thank you very much, Jim, for joining us this morning.
Well, happy birthday, Matthew.
Hey,
congratulations on all the work you've done over the last, 15 years as station manager. I mean, you've done a great job, and we veterans and alumni are so glad to see it's in such good hands, and the station's doing really, really well.
Well, there's a lot more than just me behind that. I'm a mere small part of it, but thank you very much. Thank you for all the stuff you've done, including being on our board of directors.
My pleasure.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jim, and I hope we can see you out on Saturday.
Okay.
All right, see you there. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Jim Hurcomb. You're tuned to CKCU 93.1 FM.